Before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk to you about something incredibly close to my heart, and that's maternal health. I've spoken a lot about my own experiences on this podcast, especially related to mental health and how important it is to seek help, whether through therapy or medicine. But we all know that's easier said than done. That's where Mere comes in, a virtual maternal health care clinic serving women from preconception through menopause. Mere was founded by a mom, just like you or me, who struggled to find the support she needed during her own maternal health journey and wanted to create a better experience for other women. Mere brings together therapists, women's health providers, and pelvic floor specialists who understand the unique challenges women face throughout motherhood. Mere believes women deserve care that looks at the whole picture, not just one symptom or one appointment at a time. Book a free 15-minute phone call today and learn more at mere-foreverychapter.com. That's mere, MERE-foreverychapter.com. Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the Arrivals Podcast. I'm your host, Merelise Wilson, and today, back by popular demand, I'm so excited to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Chris Wilson, the father of my two boys, my husband, and the executive producer, unpaid, of the Arrivals Podcast.
Hi, Mare.
Hi, Chris.
Happy to be here.
It's kind of crazy. Last time we sat down and did this, it was about a year ago when we recorded. I didn't release Kid's birth story for a few months, but it was the very first recording I did.
Yeah. No video.
No mic stands.
We did not have mic stands.
Things have escalated quickly. Now we are in the official Arrivals studio.
Yeah. Quotation marks.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you for doing this again with me.
Of course.
You have been such a wonderful supporter of the podcast. Probably the only guy who's listened to every single episode, I would guess. Could be wrong. But I'm excited to to have you back in the hot seat with me and to talk about our second son's birth.
It's easy to support. I think it's really cool what you're doing. So happy to listen and be a big supporter.
Before we jump in, what are a couple of the things that have surprised you that you've learned through listening to the podcast?
That's a great question. I think I kind of come out of all the different stories with a really good understanding that every birth story is unique and that no birth story is boring or not fun to talk about. There's always something that makes it just a little bit more unique than the next one. And I think that's really cool. On a nerdier level, I feel like I know a lot of the different crazy terms that are hard to spell and pronounce. Like, I can't really say it, but I feel like I know what it is. So yeah, it's been a nice sort of learning curve for me, at least.
Yeah.
It's also been really cool to watch you interview all these different people with all these great and amazing stories. But today I kind of want to flip the script and ask you the questions and have you do most of the storytelling of our second son's birth. I will certainly interject with some of the things that I might remember or just add some funny stuff since I was kind of just around for the show. But yeah, I'm excited to kind of ask you some questions and let you tell everybody about Ford's birth.
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, good. So I guess where we'll start is, how was your pregnancy?
This is funny to be in the guest seat. My pregnancy with Ford was different than it was with Kit's. Right from the beginning, I remember that I was sick with him and I wasn't with Kit. And that led us to believe that we were having a girl.
Me
Because,
too.
yep, because we didn't know what we were having again. We love a surprise. And so my pregnancy with him was just, it wasn't hard in the grand scheme of things, but it was harder than it was with kids. I had different cravings. I can't remember all the things now, but I remember there were a lot of like opposites, but primarily just that I was sicker with him than I was
Right.
with Kit.
And similar that it was another summer due date.
Yes.
So when you were your most uncomfortable, it
Hmm.
was also 6 million degrees outside.
Even hotter because he was born the end of
Yeah.
August. That was brutal.
Yeah.
It was definitely bigger. Second baby. I'm going to blame it on the water weight from it being the end of August. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad. I think the there were a couple big milestones in my pregnancy with Ford that weren't necessarily physical, but that were just kind of like I think of as being very much part of that time period that I want to talk about. And the first one was our arguably insane decision to get a puppy
Uh,
while I was pregnant with our second child.
mm-hmm.
And everyone told us we were crazy, and they're not wrong, but I do
No,
want to kind of explain where we were coming from.
sure. I think we had our own reasons.
Yeah, yes. So we're both dog people, and our beloved Black Lab, our first baby Stella, had died when Kit was around a year and a half. And we, wanted to wait a little bit to get another dog, but we also really wanted our kids to grow up with dogs. And we
Right.
had noticed that Kit was starting to get a little bit like, unsure around dogs. And when he was little around Stella, who was huge, he was not scared at all. And so we were like, oh gosh, we got to nip this in the bud. And I think we also knew that if we waited to get another dog till after I had this baby,
Mm-hmm.
that it would probably be years because
Yeah.
you're not going to get a puppy when you have a newborn.
No, and that's what I always tell people is, I mean, so Ford turns 2 next week.
Hmm.
Y- Who's to say we would, if we had waited, if we would even have a dog right now? Would we have
Exactly.
gotten it yet? I don't know. Because, I don't think any time is a great time to get a puppy.
Yes.
I think most would say they agree and that we picked the worst possible time. What? So we got her May.
Yes, she was born in March. We got her in
We got
May.
her in May, and then 3 months later, we had
Yeah.
a newborn. So we
Yes.
had a fairly newborn puppy and a
Yeah.
newborn human.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was a lot. But that's what we decided. And I mean, it's Luna's an incredible dog, and
She's the
I
best.
can't
Yeah.
imagine not having her when we got her. And then Ford, basically from the moment he came home, he's
Hmm.
had a little companion that's around all the time. So
Yeah. It's funny. I think I was thinking a lot about how our boys would like interact with the dog and feel about dogs, but something I didn't consider was how sweet of a dog she would be like being raised with babies.
yeah,
Like she's so gentle. I mean, she's a little wild because she is a lab puppy, but she's just so full of love. She can't control herself, but she's such a sweet family dog and she's so sweet and gentle with them. And I always tell people that it was crazy. Like there were times when she was keeping us up more at night than Ford was.
yeah,
Potty training, I much prefer diapers over potty training a puppy. Um, and I always tell people, like, I don't regret it at all. I wouldn't necessarily recommend our approach, but I'm
no,
glad we did it.
it was worked for us. It was our decision.
Yeah,
Um, and then also selfishly, you and I just wanted a
I
dog in the
know.
house again
I
too.
know.
So, um, you know, we did it. Everyone thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
Don't care. It was great for us. But yeah, so I was wondering where you were going with some of the, weird things during the pregnancy. And yeah, that was definitely one of them.
That was a milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Milestones, what you called it. What other milestones?
The other one was that on a less fun milestone, my dad passed away when I was pregnant with Ford. And that was really, really hard. I, as you know, was very close to my dad. He'd been sick for a while with Parkinson's and then with some heart issues. But I really didn't think that he was going to pass away before I was done having kids, looking back like a couple years prior.
Yeah.
Um, and I will say that I think, I talk about this a lot when I talk about my dad. He was 50 when I was born. So I think in the back of my head, I always did have this sense that I was going to like lose him sooner than I should, sooner than at a younger age than most people lose their parents. But I didn't think it was going to happen when it did. And that was really hard. He was such a like loving and wonderful grandfather to Kit. And so it was hard to process not knowing that I wouldn't see him with Ford like
Yeah.
that.
He had such a
Um,
fun bond with
hmm
Kit,
hmm
and it's sad to think about that he didn't get to develop that with Ford. But
It is.
your dad is in Ford in a
Oh,
lot
yes,
of different ways.
for sure. And I just really believe, call it woo woo, call it whatever. I think that they were hanging out on the other side after my dad had passed and before Ford had come into this world. I don't know. I just have a feeling that they knew each other in some capacity.
Yeah,
So I like to think that Ford got to meet him.
sure. We just didn't get to see it.
Yeah, exactly. But so it was a hard pregnancy from the standpoint of having a puppy and dealing with grief. And I mean, I remember, I was already tired just from being pregnant and just being who I am, being the sleepiest person in the world. But grief on top of that it was really tough. And also chasing a toddler around. I talk a lot on the podcast with guests about how the second pregnancy and third and et cetera is hard because now you're also chasing
Right.
multiple kids
Yeah.
and having to deal with that. So I just remember being really, really exhausted,
Yeah.
and carrying a lot. And I think in some ways being pregnant when my dad passed was a bit of a blessing because it like forced me to focus on something else. I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think so. What I was going to ask is, with how heavy some of those mental struggles were,
mhm.
talking about passing your dad, being pregnant in general, still going through postpartum, I'm sure with Kit, do you think a lot of that stuff impacted how your postpartum was with Ford?
Definitely. That's a good question. Yeah, I think so. I remember one moment in particular when my brother came over to meet Ford for the first time. And we had gotten home from the hospital the night before, I think. And I hadn't cried a lot, but when I saw my brother, it's like bringing tears to my eyes. When I saw him, I remember I hugged him and I was like, I wish he was here talking
Yeah.
about our dad. But I also think like it was interesting because I think my grief was a little delayed, honestly, because my dad passed away when I was about halfway through my pregnancy with Ford. And so I was pregnant and then I had a newborn and, I had this toddler. And that's really kind of where all my attention or a lot of my attention and focus went. And so I honestly feel like I was just so in the weeds with all of that for a while
Yeah.
that it really didn't even feel real for a while that my
Just sort of
dad,
distracted.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so in some ways it was a gift.
Yeah. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms of two of those milestones, so getting the puppy, and your dad passing, didn't you get the phone call from the breeder, I think the day your dad passed, that Luna had been born?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. I've
that's
forgotten
cool.
that. There are all these little just God winks or signs, whatever you want to call them. She was born 3 days before my dad passed, but the breeder called me on the day that my dad had died. And I remember we, it happened in the morning and we were home later that night and I almost didn't answer the phone when I saw, because I was like, my dad just died. I'm not going to answer the phone
Yeah.
and talk to. And then something in me was like, just answer the phone. And so I answered the phone and he was like, I just wanted to tell you that the puppies were born a few days ago and they look great. And again, it felt like one of those little gifts, maybe from my dad, maybe from someone else, of just this bright spot of, you know, I don't know, looking ahead.
Yeah. There are things to smile about.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. So that was cool.
Yeah. Okay, so milestones during the pregnancy.
Mhm.
In terms of your birth plan or birth preferences,
Well
that's
done.
as you guys talk a lot about in the podcast. Was your birth preference or birth plan different than what you had for kits? I don't really recall if you were changing anything at the time. I'm sure when you talk through it, I'll remember it. But was it roughly the same, or were your thoughts different going into this second pregnancy?
It was roughly the same. I think the biggest difference was that I knew I wanted to have a doula.
Yeah.
And as wonderful as you were the best male doula, husband, coach, support person I could have asked for.
I just held my breath for 6 hours.
I wanted you to be able to, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but like I didn't want there to be so much pressure on you in this birth. And I also, having immersed myself more in the birth world between the pregnancies, I knew the value of a doula and everything that they could bring to the table from so many different aspects of a hospital
Yeah.
birth or any birth.
And I found that out firsthand when we
Yes.
get to that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And
definitely.
so I knew I wanted to hire a doula. I still wanted to have a low intervention hospital birth and, no epidural, as natural as possible, but I wanted to find a doula. So I went about kind of just Googling because I didn't have a lot of connections really yet, like I do now. But I went about and I Googled like Atlanta doulas and I found someone and reached out to her and we talked on the phone and she was like, "Yep, I have availability for your due date." And I was like, "Okay." And I remember I called you and I was like, "I just hired a doula." And you were like, "Okay, what questions did you ask her?" And I was like, um, I don't know. I said yes, like it felt right, and I just went with it.
Well, then I think you were like, we're going to have plenty of questions to ask her when we go visit her at her
Yes,
house. And
yes,
I was like, oh,
yes. I'm more of a shoot from the hip person too. You are the researcher in the family, but yeah. So we hired the doula, and a couple weeks later, we went to I think she called it like a prep course or something at her house where we went together, got a babysitter for Kit, and she walked us through. We talked about like my birth plan. She walked us through a couple um, like coping tools, positions, mechanisms. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really.
that's what I remember.
Yeah. But I remember we walked out of her house, got in the car, and I can't remember. Did you say something
I
first or
think I
did
did
I?
because I could feel um, like your body holding tension.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I said, but if I had to guess, it was something along the lines of, well, how do you think that went?
That sounds right.
Knowing what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. And I am an eternally optimistic person, and it's really hard for me to be negative and or admit like defeat on something. But I think I said to you, I don't know if she's the one. I don't know if she's my doula. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if I felt comfortable with her. Something just felt off. And it wasn't that there wasn't anything I could pinpoint, but it just didn't feel like we vibed with her, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. And that's fine.
Yeah.
And, in that moment, I think I brought this up maybe. That's not the type of decision to make where you say, "Oh, I'm sure it'll be fine."
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Because that's where I was going.
I know, I know. Just because I'm sure you've been going through a lot. It was going to be more to start over, start from
Hmm.
scratch, to find somebody else, start the
Yeah.
interview process again. But you know, it's really important that you mesh and gel uh, on almost all fronts, right? You're not maybe not with everything, but at least feel comfortable and excited about it because this person is going to be there with us in one of the most important and life-changing moments of our lives,
Mhm.
I think that calls for being a little bit
Picky?
picky.
I remember you said that to me. You said, I was going down the road of, it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. I didn't hate her. I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't like, and you were like, Merelise, do you really want someone that is just fine
yeah,
in the birth room with us as our second child is born? Like for this monumental occasion? And I was like, oh, well, when you put it like that, um,
yeah,
and
and that was that.
yeah, and I appreciate it because I mean, all these things were going through my head. Like first and foremost, my people pleasing personality, I was like, I don't want to fire someone. That sucks. And then secondly, we had put a deposit down. So I didn't want to waste the money. But, we ultimately decided that it was an expense we were willing to just take on,
Right off.
right off. Right. So eventually when I reached out and just told her I didn't think it was a good fit, she did give us, I think, half the money back, which was really
Oh,
nice.
yeah,
But then we went about trying to find a new doula because I knew I still wanted one. And this was in July and he was born in August. So I was really nervous that I wasn't going to be able to find someone with availability that close to his due date. But I ended up finding another woman. And I remember we had a video interview with her when we were at the beach for
yeah,
4th of July. And she got on the phone, Charmaine, and she had this amazing English accent. And she asked us all these questions. She listened to Kit's birth story. I think we talked to her for like an hour.
yeah,
And she, had great ideas and feedback and thoughts about his birth and like what she would have done differently, what we could do differently next time. I also loved that she had been an OB in England. And so, or excuse me, not an OB, she'd been a midwife in
that's right.
England.
Yeah,
So she'd been a midwife in England. And then when she came to the US, didn't want to jump through all the hoops and decided to become a doula. But so I felt like I was getting a midwife for the price of a
yeah,
doula. And I just loved her. She was kind of like a little sassy with you, which I loved. Playful. Sassy is the wrong word. She was playful.
yeah, for sure.
And I loved that. And she just felt really comfortable. And then a couple of weeks after that, before Ford was born, she came over to our house and we like met in person. And she loved Luna, which made me
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. It felt, if you're going to compare the two, it was very different.
Night and day.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah.
And that was great because it
Hmm.
also felt like it was not just checking that one,
Hmm.
checking the box for it. It was, it was an enthusiastic check of that box,
Hmm.
which I think was great. It was something that we really wanted, especially you really wanted. So it was great to feel so confident finding that person, and the fact that we had about them probably at that point less than a month to go.
Yeah.
So that was a big decision there.
Yeah. So we have our doula and we're getting into summer and he was due August 20th was his due date. And as I'm getting closer to the due date, getting hotter and more swollen, the practice I was at, which was the same practice I went to with Kit, started talking about induction. And I said, I don't want to be induced at 40 weeks. I, my first baby was 8 days late, and I really, really want to go into labor naturally. And the midwives I was seeing were like, okay, we'll let you go till 41 weeks, but at 41 weeks, we want you to come into the office and we'll check you that day and probably send you to the hospital to be induced.
Yeah.
And so similarly to Kit's birth, I felt like I was up against this shot clock of like, you have to go into labor. And I remember having the same anxiety and stress and fear of like, this has to happen like this. Like, I don't want to be induced. It changes the whole plan. And I remember
Preference.
preference, yes. And I remember Charmaine was really wonderful. And that whole week I was overdue, like from 40 weeks to 41. She was so wonderful. I remember texting her and, saying like, should I do this? I Googled this, like da da da. And she just had so much advice and wisdom to offer So much better than going to Dr. Google.
She's like a super doula.
Yes, exactly. And and she was like, don't waste your time on this. Like, and would just help me talk through that. And I think I remember she's told me, I should have looked this up before we started talking, but there was a statistic she gave me that was like the vast majority of people are no longer pregnant at 41 weeks. She was like, you will go into labor. She was confident.
Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. So she was amazing even before the birth even happened. And then on he was due August 19th. August 19th was his due date. So on August 26th, that morning, I had an appointment at my midwife OB office first thing.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
It was early. It was like 8 o'clock or something. So our plan had been like, we'll get up, take Kit to daycare, and then go to the office. You were in the shower getting ready for the day, and you got out, and I was still like laying in bed. And I remember I was like, oh, I guess I need to roll myself out of bed. Like, I've been laying here long enough, late per usual. And I made to move like I was going to roll. And I felt this like gush of liquid. And I was like, babe, I think my water just broke.
I remember that. And I was either just out of the shower or in it. So I heard, water or something. And I said, what'd you say? And you responded with,
You heard me.
yeah. Oh, shit.
I know. And so I remember you like went into panic mode. It was cute. You were like throwing on your clothes. You're like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And I was like, it's okay. I don't have any contractions. Just take Kit to daycare and come back and get me and we'll figure it out. We'll go from there. I'll let Charmaine know.
I think I was just worried because you were strep B positive, right?
Yeah, group B strep.
Group B strep positive, and I just remember that doesn't really allow you the leisure of, laboring at home
Yeah.
for a while. So I just remember that we didn't have a lot of time to just dilly-dally.
Well, we normally would have. So, I mean, with group B strep, you just have to make sure you get there an hour before the baby is born.
Oh, I've
But
heard enough stories on your podcast where
true,
that's a shot in the dark.
true, to get antibiotics. But I think the bigger thing that was different about this water breaking is that my water broke. I got up. It was a lot bigger than with Kit. That was one thing. But when I went to the bathroom to like examine the situation, there was like some brownish, greenish stuff in my waters. And I texted a picture of it to Charmaine, bless her. I'm sure she gets the weirdest stuff. I texted a picture of the stuff to her and she was like, I'm pretty sure that's meconium in your water. And she was like, it's not an emergency. You don't need to run out the door right now. But she was like, you need to make your way to the hospital sooner rather than later. You're not going to be able to labor at home.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's a bummer. But, and I remember something that was so nice about Charmaine is like, she was very reassuring. She was like, it can mean meconium in the fluid can mean that a baby's in distress, or it might not. She was like, it doesn't inherently mean that there's a problem. So she was like, stay calm. We will figure it out when you get to the hospital. They will determine what's going on. So you took Kit to daycare. And I remember it was wild because I was like, all right, buddy, I love you. I'll see you later. Like, you're going to have a brother or a baby. We didn't know if it was a girl or boy, but I was like, like, I'm going to have a baby. And he was like, deuces. Like he did not get it
we
or
have
care.
a video where he said, see you soon, baby.
Yeah. But he was like a little over 3 at that point. But
so I took Kit and I think I dropped Luna off
at doggy
somewhere.
daycare.
Yeah. And then came back, and did we did not go straight there.
Pretty soon. So I remember while you were gone, I was kind of like rocking on the birth ball and my water was like really just starting to gush. And it was getting really messy.
I think we maybe stayed an hour.
Yeah.
Because we were in our room a little after 10.
Yeah.
10 a.m.
So I remember I had to change clothes like multiple times before we even left because I was just soaking through
Yeah.
everything. But we went to the hospital, checked in. I still wasn't having any contractions. They did triage, and the baby's heart rate was great, which was the thing I was most worried about because of the meconium. Sometimes it can signal that the baby's in distress, but they got the heart rate and it was perfect. And so they just admitted us and settled us into a room. And then it kind of just was a waiting game.
Yeah, that's kinda what I remember.
Mm-hmm. It was,
The calm before the storm,
yeah,
which for me, I try not to show it on my face, but,
mm-hmm,
like, my heart was going 1,000 miles an hour.
yeah.
The baby's heart rate was fine, mine was not.
Well, and it's funny because it was similar with Kit. Like my water broke and then I didn't have contractions for 8 or 9 hours. But for most of that, we were asleep or not at the hospital with Kits
Right,
because it happened at like 4 in the morning.
right.
But with Ford, like we were just hanging out in the hospital room and I remember debating like when should we call Charmaine to come? And we decided like we wanted it to just be us for a little bit longer. We were listening to music, like playing Wordle and just doing random stuff.
Yeah, it was fine
Yeah.
until, the show started.
Yeah. Well, and the other weird thing that happened that was unique during that was that you mentioned the group B strap.
Mhm.
And so my contractions hadn't kicked in. When I got there, my water had broken. I was like 2 or 3 centimeters dilated, but no contractions. And they were like, well, why don't we go ahead and give you the penicillin now? Get that out of the way. And I was like, yeah, it sounds great. I remember it made me sick with Kit. Like I threw up because of the penicillin with
Yeah,
Kit. So I was like, let's do that before I'm already in pain from
yeah.
the contractions.
And we decided to go instead of into the,
Oh, yeah.
what do you even call that?
The
I
elbow.
almost called it,
Hmm.
yeah, I almost said the armpit, not the
Yeah.
armpit. Instead of going the elbow because you felt like you couldn't really
Move.
move your arm
Hmm.
much and it was painful
Yeah.
with kits.
Yeah.
And so we went for the one, sort of in the forearm,
Yes.
which gives you a lot more mobility. However,
Yeah.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. But I'm glad you said that though, because that was such a game changer for me. And again, one of those things that you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
And I didn't think twice about it when for Kit's birth, they put the IV in the crook of my arm because that's where, you get blood drawn, et cetera. But it was so uncomfortable. It really restricted my movement. And so with Ford, I specifically asked if they could put the IV in my forearm. And it was so much better. I was barely aware, but it was so just for anyone out there, remember,
Yeah.
you can ask for a different placement of the IV and forearm is probably the most comfortable.
However,
However, there was we had two nurses. They were both lovely. One of them was very new and she was in training and she did my IV line. She inserted it and then she started the penicillin drip and left. And a few minutes later, it didn't take long. And they warn you with penicillin. They say it might burn.
Mhm.
And I remembered it burned with Kit. And so, they don't want you to panic. A few minutes later, it started burning. And I was like, okay, this is the penicillin burning. Like it's doing what it does. And then it started hurting more and more. And I started sweating. And I was like turning white.
and your forearm was swelling.
And I looked down and my forearm was swelling.
Yeah.
And I remember I looked at you and I was like, I was thinking all those silly things that like, I don't want to be a wimp about this. Like, is this just what it feels like, but then when I looked down and saw the forearm swelling, I was like, I think something's wrong. And you were like, nurse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they came in and the penicillin was going into my bloodstream. It had missed my vein. So the IV was not placed in
It
my
was just in
vein.
your arm,
It was
not
just in my arm.
filling out.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that was pretty terrible. I don't know what you would call that if it's like a vasovagal reaction, but I mean, it was awful. Like the pain and like how nauseous I felt and stuff
Yeah.
was like pretty much as bad as a
But it's like when they
contraction.
took it out, wasn't it like an immediate, like a
Immediate,
pressure valve?
immediate. Yes. I immediately felt better. And they redid I think they had to do it in my other arm because this one was still pretty like puffy, I
Yeah, they
think.
switched arms and switch. They didn't do penicillin. They
Yes.
did whatever
This was, yeah,
similar.
this was another way that Charmaine like was helpful. I called her to tell her what happened and she was like, that's a really bad reaction. Is there any chance you're allergic to penicillin? And I said, I don't think so, but my mom is. And she was like, well, like allergies change as you age. And she was like, if I were you, I would just to be safe, I would ask for a different antibiotic.
Mhm.
I never would have thought of that, wouldn't have known that was an option, but I asked and they were like, absolutely, we can try something else. And so who's to say if I would have had a reaction again with the penicillin, even if it was properly placed. But it was just nice to know I didn't have to risk it. So they gave me a different antibiotic. I can't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
It went in, no problem.
Yeah, either way, they switched arms, switched the medication,
Yeah.
and it became a non-issue.
Yeah.
After it oddly was a very big issue there
Yeah.
for a minute.
That was brutal.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was very strange.
So after that, I believe that was the last event, I guess, before you started to have real contractions.
Yeah.
I think, right? That's next.
I think so. It's so funny. We were talking about this in preparation for a recording and looking back at our like messages with friends and with
Oh yeah.
Charmaine and stuff because it's so much of a blur. I feel like everything with the first labor, with kids' labor, was like so, I don't know. I remember it so clearly, but
Same.
yeah, there wasn't, it's much more of a blur with Fords. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of the last big thing. And then after they finished that bag of antibiotic, I got up and walked around. I remember the midwife. Oh, and I was so happy because it was my favorite midwife who was on call. It was the
Yeah.
one that I'd wanted to deliver Kit, and she wasn't there. And it was really cool. Again, it felt like another serendipitous thing. She actually had planned to retire that year that Ford was born.
Oh man, I didn't. I don't remember that.
Yeah, she planned to retire and didn't. And then she got to deliver Ford, which was really cool.
Thank goodness.
I know. I love her. Shout out Lori. But so yeah, so then she was like, get up, walk around. Like, I need these contractions to pick up. And I was like, totally. And so we were just walking around. I was like bouncing on the ball and the contractions were sort of starting to like kick in. And then I feel like it just ramped up really fast.
It did.
Ramped up really
From my memory.
fast.
Yeah.
And I remember I was kind of at the end of the bed. I was sitting on the ball, rolling my hips, doing figure eights, and holding on to the end of the bed. And you were having to apply like counter pressure.
On your hips. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it
You did
was,
that for a while.
yeah, you did
Yeah.
that for a
It was
while.
helping.
It was helping.
It was working.
I would say like, I think we had a countdown. You'd be like, tell me when it's coming. And I would say 3, 2, 1.
And we'd breathe into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember too, I had one of those contraction timer apps on my phone.
Yeah.
I was meticulous about
I know.
it.
You love it.
I know. What are you gonna say? I love a chart.
Yes. Yes. An Excel spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, and it helped to show where we were going because I vividly remembered how all this stuff went with Kit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I still had it saved because I know we'll get there,
Mm-hmm.
but boy, you were going through it.
I was, but it wasn't. I remember it wasn't as bad as it was with Kit. And bad in the sense of that the contractions weren't going off the chart and I was getting more of a break between them. And they weren't, I remember my contractions with Kit, some of them were like 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I think now I recognize that as those were Pitocin contractions.
Right. Okay.
And I
That's
didn't
right.
have to have Pitocin before.
Yeah.
So while they sucked,
Well, yeah, I mean, they were
they were brutal.
and I can't remember. I'm not going to go into too many of the details because it's memory at this point, but I remember for a long stretch of time, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours, you were averaging over a minute long.
So I think at one point, I remember the contractions were getting tough. We decided to call Charmaine and tell her to go ahead and come. That was something that was kind of like unexpectedly hard, was deciding when to call the doula. Because I was like, we wanted to be in our like bubble. We didn't want to inconvenience her, which is so silly, but we decided finally to make the call that she should come. And so she was on her way. And I remember I was not coping. And I think I just gone to like a negative place. And I kept thinking, like, this year has already been so hard. This, losing my dad was so hard. Like, do I really want to do this like this? I've been so strong. I don't want to keep being strong. I was just having a little bit of a pity party.
Sure.
Mentally in my head.
That's fine.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, I was aware of what was
Yeah.
going on, and it's probably in your head too, you know, "Hey, I already showed that I could do this before with
Mhm.
Kit. Do I really need to, you know, go through all this pain to prove it to myself
Yeah.
again?"
Mhm.
And I remember that moment,
Mhm.
but then you kind of shook it off and
Yeah. It was good. I think right when I was really starting to melt down, Charmaine got there.
yeah, I remember that. Um, so I remember kinda getting you over the first hump,
Yeah.
kinda pumping you up and reminding you stuff, and I felt like that gave you some adrenaline because I
Mhm.
remember you being like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, no, like, you're right, like, I'm fine, I'm fine."
Yeah.
And then she might have showed up, like, 45 minutes after that,
Mhm.
and, I think you were kind of spiraling again,
Yeah.
and she came in with some you know, I don't really remember, like, not necessarily different motivation or stuff. She was giving you a lot of almost options like, "Hey, let's try this, let's try
Right.
that." Like, kinda took your mind off it. Like, "Hey, we don't have to go the route right now of deciding if that you want an epidural. We can
Yeah.
go to the shower,
Right.
right? See if that helps."
And she just brought like new energy in.
Yeah.
It was something about it was just it was a good distraction. It it changed the energy in the room. And I remember I told her I was like I'm not coping well and she was like, "Yes, you are." She was like, "You're doing it." In her amazing accent, which I'm not even going to
Yeah,
attempt
don't.
to do. And so I had I remember on the birthing ball, I had this huge contraction. And I felt something that I did not feel with Kit. I felt the baby move through my pelvis, like down into my pelvis. Like it was crazy. It was like I could feel the head,
Can you
the
describe,
bones.
like, probably something you've never felt before, but if you had to liken it to something,
Oh
could
gosh.
you?
I mean, I picture it. I don't know what this feels like, but I pictured, a boulder like pushing through a tunnel of dirt or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt this head move down into and engage into
Yeah.
my pelvis. It was crazy.
You're like, "Uh-oh,
It was crazy.
here we go."
And I like it was really painful. And then after that, I couldn't sit on the ball anymore. I was like, this is no longer working. This is not comfortable. I was really like fighting every contraction, like holding my breath or like
Yeah.
breathing really hard. I remember I was doing my breaths, but Charmaine was like, you got to slow it down. You're not really doing your breaths. She was like,
It's like, "Well,
slow
you
it
know, I
down.
don't think you're actually
I was
breathing."
like, like, so, I don't know. So I had that huge contraction and sitting on the birth ball was no longer comfortable. I guess because I was like sitting on his head,
Yeah.
basically. He was right there. And Charmaine said, why don't we try a shower? And I said, sure. I'd always wanted to try like laboring in water. Everyone talks about how wonderful it is. And I really just wanted to try anything at that point. And so they were getting the shower ready, and you were helping me walk to the bathroom. And I sat down on the toilet to pee, and I had two really big contractions on the toilet. And as I've learned more, I've learned that this happens a lot on the toilet. And there's a reason that women are naturally drawn to the toilet in labor. It's if you think about the shape of a toilet and you look at pictures of birthing stools, traditional birthing stools, it's the same
Are they
thing.
the same?
It's the same thing. And it's like an optimal position because your legs are open, but your cervix, and everything are able to kind of like be below, your knees without the pressure of a ball or a surface. And so I had two huge contractions on the toilet. And I remember Charmaine being like, hmm. And I stood up and my legs were jello. I
Yeah,
remember leaning over the sink to wash my hands
yeah.
and I had to hold on to the sink.
Oh,
I like
fair.
couldn't. And I think we were thinking the same thing, which was,
No more shower.
how am I?
No,
She's going to slip.
she's gonna shower's not an option.
No. And I think Charmaine, in all her infinite wisdom, knew that I was getting close at that point based on the signals, the noises, et cetera. And so she said to me, how would you feel about scrapping the shower and maybe trying a little fentanyl just to give you a little break? Because I think she could see also I was so tense and I was fighting the contractions and I was just I was going through it.
His battle.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Shoot me up with heroin. Why not? Why not? When in Rome. And so
Do you remember if the fentanyl helped?
I remember it helped for it felt like one contraction, but might have been two, but it did take the edge off just long enough for me to catch my breath
Yeah.
and just remember that I could do it.
And that's the second time you brought that up. And I remember that from kits where it was, you know, contraction, going into contraction, going to contraction. And you talking about that you felt like you couldn't catch your breath. And when
Hmm.
you could catch your breath, you felt like it made the contractions more manageable.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I feel like I've heard a lot on your podcast is women talking about the catching of their breath in
Mm,
between the contractions. And it's just something I kind of picked up. Have you been, as you've been talking, like that, that's at least for you, a very important, part of the process. Like maybe it's
yeah.
almost like a reset where you can actually do the right breathing techniques. Is that something that you've heard other women talk about, or am I just crazy?
It's a good question. I mean, in birth prep, I think that you hear a lot about breath work and the importance of it.
Right.
I It's interesting you ask because you're right. I don't hear people talk a lot about feeling breathless. I hear people talk about like Teresa talks about breathing her babies slowly into the world, but in the sense that I think you're noticing with my stories, now that you mention it, I do have a habit I've had my whole life of holding my breath when I'm focused
Uh,
or or doing something hard. As you know, I was a dancer growing up and I really had to work to remember to breathe while I danced. So I wonder if I just wasn't doing a good job
yeah,
breathing.
maybe.
I don't
But
know.
when you talk about those, breaks, I imagine that all the breathing techniques and everything are very tough to continue to do if you're not getting a break to like,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
to think about breathing.
Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of, you hear a lot of places in the UK and Australia and anywhere but the US, and a lot of home births have this. They have gas and air. And so, gas to help
Yeah.
distract you, but then they have air to help you get more air to your bloodstream and
Yeah.
everything. So
Why isn't that a thing here?
I don't know. If anyone knows. So yeah, so the fentanyl let me catch my breath for a minute. And at that point, she had me get into this position that I wish I had. Again, just she was amazing to have. I never would have thought of this, but she had me get into this position because I couldn't sit on the ball because it was painful, but my legs were too weak to stand, which in hindsight, I should have been doing some squats. I should have been healthier during my pregnancy. But she had me get on the bed on my knees and then hug like the head of the bed. They tilted the hospital bed up so that it was almost perpendicular like a chair.
I remember that.
And I hugged the top of the bed and just kind of rested my chest on it and was sitting on my knees.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple contractions.
Did that feel like it relieved any pressure, or what was what made that position the right one for you at the time?
I think my legs were just so
Yeah.
jello. And that sounds so weird. You don't think your leg muscles are going to, especially, because we stood up the whole of Kit's labor. We danced.
I know. Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was dehydrated. I don't know if I was just not in as good of shape as I was with Kit, but my legs were violently shaking. I could not stand. And so, yeah. And I remember at that point in that position, they checked me and they were like, you're 7 or 8-ish
Yeah, I remember
centimeters.
7.
And so you asked if it helped. I don't think it really helped pain management wise because I was going through transition. So I was
Yeah.
in like the most painful part. It helped take the pressure off my legs. But nothing was comfortable at that point. And so they were like, you're at 7 or 8 centimeters. And I was like, okay, this is good. Like this is progress. And then Charmaine said, well, why don't you slide down and lay on your side? I think maybe I said that the position wasn't working or helping anymore and the fentanyl had worn off really quickly. She said, why don't you lay on your side and we'll put the peanut ball between your legs? And I said, sure. and they did it. And I remember it was excruciatingly painful. I was like, no, this
No,
is not,
no peanut ball.
no peanut ball. And I think they immediately took it away. And I had another contraction and I made like this noise.
Oh,
And I remember Charmaine looked at me and she said, "Are you pushing?" And I hadn't even thought about it, but I said, "I'm trying not to."
yeah. I remember this vividly.
Yeah.
When you said I'm trying not to, it was not as calm as you just said it.
Was I like, I'm trying not
No, it's
to?
just very in the moment of transition and baby coming and pain. And I just remember it was like everything you could muster to like say that
Yeah.
in between like your breathing and contractions.
Mm,
Like, and it was like, okay,
yeah.
which means involuntary pushing, I think is what she called it.
Yes. I remember she said, "Nurse, we have involuntary pushing, get the midwife."
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I think the reason I said I'm trying not to push is because it had been 5 minutes since they checked me and said I was 7 or 8 centimeters. It had not been long.
Yeah, it was.
So I thought, surely I am not 10 centimeters. There's no way it's time to push. So any like feeling of needing to push must be too soon. Like I need to hold back because if you push too soon, that can be a problem if you're not fully dilated. I think that's why I said I'm trying not to. But she heard that noise I was making and knew what was up with all of her
It
experience.
was a mama bear noise.
Yeah. It really, it's like an animalistic.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it? What are the noises like from your perspective? I don't remember what it sounded like.
Scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Guttural, like,
that guttural is a good one. That's why when I talked previously about, when we were in there and nothing was going on and we were kind of just walking around and hanging out, waiting for contractions to come, that like my heart was beating.
yeah.
Because I think about, you know, when the battle starts and you're going through it, and I know how much pain you're going through, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Um, for me, selfishly, but no, yeah, I mean, um, it's wild.
Did I have my eyes closed for a lot of it?
Mm-mm.
No. I
No.
remember looking at you.
Yeah. Very focused.
Hmm. Did I cuss? I can't even remember.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm thinking like, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, some words there's just no better word
that's
at the
true.
moment than if,
So true.
um, but yeah, so
Hmm.
you said she called the midwife in
Hmm.
because involuntary
Hmm.
pushing.
And I kind of like rolled over from my side onto my back and they like lifted the head of the bed up. So I was sitting
Yeah.
and I scooted down to the edge of the bed so that, my bottom was like hanging off the bed. And the midwife got there. And I remember it was weird. It was like the adrenaline, it was almost like everything paused and the contractions weren't bothering me. And I remember I said to her, "Should I push?" And she said, "Whenever you're ready, this is your show." And that was such a different experience from my first birth with Kit, where even though I didn't have an epidural, they were telling me when to push. They were telling me how to push. They were just being so directive.
I remember that, telling you to push when you had no urge,
Yeah,
which has gotta feel so
it
counterintuitive.
did. It really did. And so for her, I remember smiling to myself and being like, hell yeah, it's my show. And I had such a strong fetal ejection reflex with Ford. After she said that, I like locked back in. I had one big contraction. I pushed. Then the next big contraction, I pushed and his head came out.
Yeah.
And then I remember everyone said, "Stop, stop, 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 stop. Don't push, don't push." The cord's wrapped around his neck. But I couldn't because I was having the reflex. And the best way to describe it is like throwing up out of your vagina. Like you can't. Sorry if that's graphic, but
I think you could have just said throwing up.
no,
Yeah, maybe.
it was like throwing up. Like I could not control the reflex.
Sorry, everybody, she is unhinged at the moment.
You know what? We're all about honesty
Yeah.
here. And so, anyways, they were like, stop, don't push. But I was already mid next push. They thankfully were able to unwrap the cord really quickly from around his neck. So I pushed again. His body came out
Yeah.
and they, lifted him onto my chest. And I was so
It was
happy.
so fast. It
It
felt so
was,
fast at
it
that moment.
was. I think when we were looking
Yeah.
back at our messages from you texting my friend saying
7
7 or 8,
centimeters.
yeah,
I think it was 26 minutes or 28 minutes. Is that what we
I
said?
think it was less.
Was it? Well, that's fast.
Yeah, it was really fast. I think it was like 15.
Yeah.
It was really fast.
It did.
It was 6 minutes of pushing.
It escalated.
Yeah.
It escalated, but then the escalation wasn't for very long.
No, I think that's what I've learned about my labors is in hindsight, like they were very similar. Water broke early, no contractions for hours and hours and hours. Then when the contractions started, they started pretty, they escalated pretty quickly.
Right.
Then right when I think I can't do it, it means I'm in transition. And then
Yeah.
soon after the baby is here.
And with Kit, though, I think you pushed for what, like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and a
Yeah,
half?
that's true. That was the key difference. I wasn't having
The urge.
the urge
Yeah,
to
I
push.
remember. And then I remember when you did, because it
Mhm.
felt very natural, and you started telling everybody because they were like, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like she was like, like, okay, it's coming.
Yeah.
And so then they kind of got in your rhythm of, okay,
Mhm.
again, like your show.
Mhm.
This one was much more, it started off that way, which was
Mhm.
nice. But then what's wild, it was 3, maybe 4 pushes,
Yeah.
and
And he was out.
baby boy.
And I remember we didn't know if he was a boy or a girl.
Yes, our plan was exactly like how Kit's was
Mhm.
3 years before, where we didn't know, and the plan was when the baby comes out that they would either show the baby to me or put the baby on Merelise's chest facing me
Yeah.
so that I could tell her what it was. And I think just like with Kit, I said it's Ford. I don't think I said it's a boy. I think I said
Did you?
it's Ford.
I
Do you
remember
differently?
I
We have
remember
video of it.
we do. I remember looking at your face
Oh,
and being like, it's a boy. I could
because I
tell.
was a little surprised.
I think so. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was surprise or what, but we we haven't talked much about it, but we really thought it was a girl. Really did.
Yeah, when you think about it, you can give all the reasons of your pregnancy was different, you were carrying different, all
Hmm.
of that. We had no idea
It's still 50-50 at
why
the
we
end of the
thought
day.
that it was a girl.
And yeah, so something about your face, I was like, it's another boy,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yep,
Well, and it was interesting too, because just like with Kit, we hadn't really decided on a girl name. We kind of had decided on a girl
sort
name, but
of.
like we for sure knew the boy name.
Yeah,
And it was really special because our boy name was our dad's names.
yeah. So Stanford named after my dad,
Mm-hmm.
David after yours,
Mm-hmm.
Ford for short.
Yeah. And so I remember being happy that we got to use
Yeah.
my dad's name, and of course your dad's, but happy
Yeah, I
that,
haven't thought about it that way
mm,
until right now.
yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. And so, yeah, they put him on my chest and he was perfect.
Yeah.
And I had like a teeny tiny little tear, didn't bother me, which is impressive because we found out later on he has a 95th percentile head.
Yeah, he has a friggin' pumpkin
He's
head.
got a pumpkin head. He wasn't big. He was 6'14", I think 22 inches.
All very similar to Kit's
Yeah.
measurements, weren't
Kit
they?
was 6'10" or 6'11". Now I can't remember. I think he was 6'11". He was 6'11". Ford was 6'14", a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, but not a huge baby, long and skinny, kind of like Kit. And just with a big old
Yeah,
noggin.
just melon head.
And I got to have my golden hour that I didn't
Yep,
get to have with Kit.
yep. Everything was so much more enjoyable that second one,
Hmm.
and for those of you that haven't heard, you can go back and to the very first episode of
Yeah.
Arrivals and listen to Kits, but it was basically chaos from the moment
Yeah.
that we got to the hospital, and this one was, you know, Ford stayed in the room, didn't have to go to the NICU or
Yeah.
anything like that. So you had your golden hour. You know, we got to stay together because I didn't chase Kit when he left and you were by
Mm-hmm.
yourself. It felt more like how you thought it was supposed to be, and we
Yeah.
hadn't really gotten that before. But yeah, it just felt like calm
Mm-hmm.
once he came. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the last one remained chaotic after Kit came. So
I
it
don't
was
think
nice.
I don't think I realized how sad Kits was until
Yeah.
we had the experience with Ford. And it was
That's
so,
a good, yeah,
so beautiful and so wonderful and just felt so right. You know, it's how it should be. Like you shouldn't be
I
separated right
know.
after. And I held him the whole time the midwife cleaned me up. He nursed right there in the delivery room. And
Did
he
he
was,
latch?
yeah, he latched right there. And I just remember I was just in heaven. I couldn't stop smiling. All the pictures of me, I mean, I look a hot mess, but I'm happy. And then I finally let you hold him. I held on to him for a while. I didn't
Sure.
want to finally let you hold
I'm
him.
not gonna get in between that.
Oh, and you got to cut the cord with him. You didn't cut the cord with Kit because it was like an emergency
Yeah, because
situation.
they took him away from
Yeah.
us.
But you cut Ford's
Yeah, I
cord.
forgot about that.
And I remember I was like, has it stopped pulsing? And they were like, honey, you've been holding him for a while. Like it has very much has stopped pulsing. And I was like, okay.
That's
Um,
part of my birth plan.
yes. And it was just beautiful. You held him and Charmaine held him and she stayed with us until we transferred to our recovery room. And she was so sweet and wonderful and made sure we were all settled in. And then
Everything was nice. He was born at 6:32.
6:32. So my water broke at like 7:30 and
Probably,
he was born
yeah.
at
So
6:32.
11 hours,
So water broke at 7:30. Contractions started around 3:30.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So really I was like contracted for 3 hours. That's kind of crazy.
yeah.
Or they really started ramping up. I was in active labor at 3:30. He was born at 6:30 too. And then we ordered Jimmy John's.
Ordered Jimmy John's, stayed the night,
Yeah.
left the next day.
Yeah. We only stayed one night, which was nice.
Like, are you sure you don't want to stay? We are like, yeah.
We want to blow
Is
this spot
everybody
soon.
good? They're like, everyone's great. And it's like,
Yeah.
see ya.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about Ford's birth, though, was Kit coming to meet him in the
Yeah, that
hospital.
was awesome.
It was
So, yeah, my parents brought him. We have that. I filmed him coming in.
so cute.
It's the best.
And I remember I really missed him. You
Yeah,
know, it was,
we talked about that a lot.
yeah, I was like, oh, I miss him. I want to see
Yeah,
him.
that was not the day no, wouldn't
The
have been
next
the day.
day.
It was the next day.
Hmm.
So, because they kind of came in the afternoon, so we must have left not long after
Yeah.
they left with Kit
I think it
once
was
he
something
saw
like
him.
that. We
Yeah,
checked out around dinner time or something. But yeah, he came in and met his little brother, and he was so sweet. And I'll, I'll never forget. The nurse came in to change his bandages on his circumcision,
hmm.
and Kit was watching her like a hawk,
Oh yeah,
and he was
we got pictures of
so
that too.
concerned.
He For a 3-year-old, he had the face of I have a lot of questions, but he didn't
Yes.
ask any questions, but he was inquisitive with his face.
Poor buddy. He was very
Yeah,
worried.
I know. And it was also cruel, telling your mom his name
Oh,
and
yeah.
telling my dad his name.
Yes.
That was cool.
That was very emotional. I remember I called my brother and sister-in-law and my mom and told him that his name was Stanford David. And
Mhm.
that was the first time I cried that day, I think. It was really special.
That was a good day.
It was a really good day.
August 26th,
Hmm.
2024.
He's going to be 2, which is insane because that
Wow.
feels like this was yesterday. And, you know, he kind of came into I say this all the time. I swear babies are born with their personalities. He came into the world like a wrecking ball and he has maintained that same persona.
Yep, he's
He's crazy.
He's crazy.
He's a Looney Tune. We love him. And it's so fun seeing the differences between him and Kit and thinking back to Kit's birth,
Mm,
like he didn't want to come out. And
yeah.
he's like, he's a very cautious little dude,
He's very
very
cautious.
attached to his mom. And
Ford's
Ford's
like
just like, here I am, world.
Ford's like the Kool-Aid man busting through the wall.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of shaped like him too.
Yeah, kind of. My dad calls him Bruiser.
Bruiser.
He's got a
Yes.
lot of bruises and
Constantly.
he's awesome. We've got our two little boys.
He's a blast. Got our two little boys and Luna. And then I have to also say that when we got home from the hospital, shout out to Penny, my wonderful
Oh yeah.
postpartum doula, who came over. It was funny when we were going through the plan or preferences for birth and postpartum. I remember we said to each other, "Do we need to have Penny again?" You know, and like we probably remember.
Didn't I say absolutely?
Yes, you were
Yeah.
like, "No, I want
I
Penny."
was like, do we need
I
what
know.
do you need air to breathe?
Right,
And you need
exactly.
Penny. Yes.
And sure enough, she came and she stayed for longer than she
Yeah.
did with Kit. And she was wonderful. And she did all the wonderful things. She reminded us, it's so funny, everything you forget between kids. She showed us how to wash, how to bathe them. I'm trying to,
Comes back really
yeah,
quickly, but if you had just given me like a swaddle
yeah,
and I hadn't done it, I mean, I would have like had to YouTube it. Like,
yeah,
how did I do this thing?
yeah.
But she reminds you and
Hmm.
of everything and teaches you some new stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was a big savior for us after Kit's birth, right? Our
yeah.
first
She saved our
baby,
lives.
and we didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
we knew nothing.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just such a comfort having
Mm-hmm.
her in the
Yeah.
house. As much as reminding you things to do, it was just like Penny's here, we're good,
Yes,
we're
I know.
good.
It's like a comforting presence.
Yeah.
She's wonderful and she washed bottles and she made me lunch and just love her. And then I, proceeded to text her every other day for the next
Hmm.
few weeks because I forgot everything I knew about
Yeah.
babies. And she ended up referring me to a wonderful lactation consultant at Northside who was awesome and helped me so much with my breastfeeding journey with Ford. 'Cause even though he was a better nurser than Kit, he still wasn't great.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing some occupational therapy with him for his tongue, and I nursed him for 11 months, and he did great. He was a chubby little nugget.
He was. Until he started walking and he
Hmm.
started burning calories.
He
He
still
was
got a
a
pot belly,
chunky
though.
monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that's our little Fortellini.
What a fun story.
I know.
Okay. So, I don't know if you know, but we always like to ask our guests on the Arrivals podcast to describe birth in 3 words.
Yeah, I obviously knew this was coming, and I didn't think about it. This is hard. I feel for all of my guests. Okay, birth in 3 words. Mm, how have I not thought about this?
I don't know, but you should feel for your guests now.
I do. I
You
really
put them
do.
on the spot.
I know. I really do. Spiritual. There's just nothing like bringing life into this world to make you feel like there's something bigger than us out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so spiritual. And then I think primal,
Mhm.
because I can't help but think about, well, it's very animalistic and like the actual act of it, but it also just really makes me think about all the millions and millions of women before me who have done the same thing in the same way.
Yeah.
And just, it's like, it's a primal, intuitive act.
Yeah, you're talking about all the different things like the urge to push
Hmm.
and all those things where your body, if you're listening,
Yeah,
right, is it seems like for the most part is telling you
right.
when it's ready, when you're ready, when it's time,
Yeah.
when you should push.
Yeah, your brain takes a back seat and it becomes
Yeah.
very physically primal. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think miraculous.
That's a good one.
It's just every birth is a little miracle. Conception's a miracle. It is miraculous that act of bringing a life into the world, of going this human going from being able to breathe inside your body to now breathing outside of your body. And our belly buttons are like evidence of how we were all connected to our moms. And I don't know, if that's miraculous, but it's just all of it it's miraculous. And I think it's really cool that there's still a lot that we don't know about the birth process. And in some ways, I kind of hope that we don't learn it, because it just feels like this really sacred, maybe that's another word, sacred. It feels like this really sacred experience between mother and child. And maybe we don't need to know every detail
Yeah.
between point A and point Z. I don't know. So spiritual, primal, miraculous / sacred. I get four since I'm the
Yeah.
host.
Well, this was fun.
This was so fun. I don't want it to end, but I guess we got to wrap up. All right. Well, you've been listening to the Arrivals podcast.
Until next time.
Bye, guys.